The changes I've seen in students is the anxiety is less, and they're ready to take on a problem. They explain their thinking more. Their answers are much more in depth. A lot of times kids will just solve it, and they can't verbalize how they got the answer. They just know they got it. And this teaches them to get there and how to explain each step. And then they're thinking, wow, now that is how I got the answer. And it really helps them articulate what they're trying to say.
It's also really powerful when your peers are scoring you. For example, back to the math again. When your peer is scoring you and they're giving you like legitimate criteria from the scoring guide, it's a very powerful tool for the kids. It's not just the teacher saying you've got a 2. It is the other students legitimately scoring their papers, and I think that's a real powerful tool for them, and they enjoy seeing what the other students, how they scored them.
The difference in attitude that I've seen in the kids from not using a rubric or a scoring guide to those that do use one, and we have been using them, is a marked improvement in their, not only their attitude about their papers, but their ability to perform better at a higher level. Whether the students are a low achieving child or one that's a high achiever, all the kids in that whole range, the whole spectrum, improve. And that's wonderful to see them be able to do that. I think one of the reasons why the kids have a better attitude about how they scored on their paper is because they're taking a personal interest, and they can see that I didn't do well on this paper, and this is why I didn't do well. I want to do better, and next time when I do another assignment, I can do better because I know what's expected of me, and I know what I need to do to reach that level of a 3 or a 4. The kids take more ownership in their learning.
The assessments that I showcased were based on 2 performances assessments where there were products that small groups of students created. And one of them was a dramatization in a script based on information that they learned from the Constitutional Convention as part of our social studies content. And the other one was a mini board game that small groups of students designed and created around westward expansion. So they're both social studies, performance-based assessments. These were sort of culminating, creative, fun, cooperative group learning experiences and assessments that the students were able to create. And part of the objective was to have the students really be involved with the content, because they had done quite a bit of work with the text, with taking notes, doing graphic organizers, and sort of being tested, sort of rote work on the material. And then what happened was they were able to apply the core content in a sort of a creative way and in a problem-solving way. And in order to do that, though, they had to have ongoing assessment. They had to have a scoring guide in their hands. They had to have checkpoints in order to do it in a way that the quality was high. And so it really fitted well with the students' 4 learning assessment practices. Their involvement was throughout. Mm-hmm. In other words, they were put in groups. They were given a scoring guide from the onset of for example, for the script that was based on Constitutional Convention information. They were given specific guidelines, very specific guidelines on what the script was to look like, how many lines each student was supposed to have, and they were given a scoring guide with sort of these are the things that we're looking for. So as they went through to write the script, to rehearse the script, they were given sort of checkpoints and also kind of a scoring guide to look at and sort of check off themselves and give themselves scores as they went along. And then the final product was actually the presentation. And then the teacher also scored and gave points. And they were able to also do some written self-reflection on it.
Well, my attitude has changed because it's easier for me to assign a score to a paper because I can look at it and see if this student has completed every single thing that they need to complete to get
the complete ice cream cone. There is a great deal of what I would call front loading that occurs at the beginning of the school year, for it to have a successful school year. I use scoring guides as an instructional tool in mathematics, social studies, communication, as well as writing. And in each of those academic cases, the scoring guides are used to provide clear criteria that explains the target that I'm asking the students to reach. That no longer for them or myself is the target moving, but we have clearly outlined expectations and goals, and the students can focus on what they did correctly and determine what is my next step and where do I need to work on next. As a teacher, it provides me the instructional next step. As I am looking at their scored papers and their scoring guides, I'm able to see individually what instructional step I need to take them to next, or what areas that we can skip and move on to.
The scoring guide has helped me be a better math solver, because before I used to just grade because that's what the teacher told me, and I didn't really look into the problem. But now when I grade, I actually look at the problem, and then I try to figure out how the people actually came up with the answer. I think that I'm more confident because when I first get to see the problem, the first step is always to read it. But most people just sort of read it once and then just automatically go into the problem. But for me, now I know that you need to read it and then study it so that you know what you need to do, what your first step would be.
When we get the scoring guides and we score people's papers, I like to read how they explained and what they're doing, because it's interesting of how they solve their problem. It helped me because they will probably do it a different way than I do, so I can see how they do it, and it can help me next time I do a math problem, I can use the way they did, see if it's better than the way I did.
If we didn't have scoring guides, I don't think I'd noticed some of the weaker parts that I was doing in 4th grade. Because in 4th grade I wasn't that great at using problem solving and making tables or charts. I didn't know a whole lot about that stuff. And then when we had the problem solving scoring guides, then in 5th grade when we had those, then I knew exactly the first time I did it, I knew exactly what I was doing wrong and what I needed to do to fix that.